Mail arrived in David Bennett's inbox. He woke up and checked the clock. It was 3:03 in the morning. At first, when he saw the email, he thought it was a scam. Historic Victorian mansion for sale. Price to move. The picture attached was captivating. A 3-story home wrapped in ivy, nestled against a foggy tree line. Tall, with cracked windows, a massive oak door, and sprawling grounds that seemed to stretch forever into the mist. David wiped the sleep from his eyes. $75,000 for that much land, he thought. He clicked the listing, expecting hidden fees, but it was real. No mortgages, no loans. It would cost me everything I have, but this could be salvation, he murmured to himself, after months of job interviews ending in disappointment. Laura, he called. What? His wife stirred beside him. I think I found it, he said, his voice trembling with a strange mixture of hope and fear. Our fresh start. The next morning he contacted the real estate agent, who was almost too eager to meet them. Her name was Janice Doyle, a thin woman with a tight smile and eyes that flickered too much for comfort. Why is it selling for this amount? David asked. Just a slow market out here, Janice replied, her smile stretched tight. In remote areas like this, people want condos these days, not old stories. But legally, I am obligated to tell you some families have moved out under less than ideal circumstances. Nothing has been proven, of course. She smiled even wider. Their 16-year-old daughter, Emily, leaned toward her younger brother, Michael, and whispered with a...
Bet it's haunted.
Shut up.
Emily, don't scare your brother.
Well, let us not waste time.
The drive took nearly an hour outside the nearest town. Dirt roads soon replaced gravel, flanked by looming trees gnashing their branches against the sky. David gripped the steering wheel tighter. When they turned onto the estate's private drive, an oppressive silence settled over the car. The mansion rose before them like a carcass abandoned by time, still grand and beautiful in its own way. Windows stared down at them like lidless eyes. The front door loomed too large, like a mouth waiting to swallow them whole. Come on, Janice chirped brightly. Let us explore. Room after room unfolded. A ballroom with a cracked piano, a dining hall with a 30-seat table. Laura grasped David's hand. Can we afford it? She asked. David hesitated only a moment. Yes, but it will drain what we have left with little to feed on for a week, he whispered. Then let us do it, she said. They signed the papers that same day. Janice's hands trembled as she handed over the keys. Congratulations. The estate is all yours now, she said, and quickly left after receiving payment. As they drove away to pack the rest of their belongings, the house loomed in the mirror, and in one of the upper windows behind the stained glass, a shadow shifted. The estate had waited. The house had chosen them, and now it was awake. That night, as David lay on his bed, with thoughts of the house swirling in his mind, he had a dream. He stood in front of the mansion again, but this time it was different, rotten. Screaming echoed from inside. The windows bled, and the oak tree by the front lawn bent low, its roots writhing like worms. He tried to turn away, but the door swung open by itself. A child's voice echoed from the darkness. Come in, Master Bennett. We have been waiting so long for you. David woke up in a cold sweat. He glanced at the clock. 3:03 in the morning. At the same time, the email arrived 2 days ago. He did not notice the small handprint of a child on the window beside his bed, pressed from the inside. Round Stillwater Estate. The Bennett family followed behind in their battered SUV, the tires crunching over broken stones and brittle twigs. David tried to ignore the tight knot growing in his chest as they pulled up to the yawning mansion. It was just nerves, he told himself, just the weight of starting over. Beside him, Laura smiled brightly, her optimism thin but determined. Michael tapped away on his game console, lost in his own world, while Emily stared silently out the window, her face unusually pale. This is it, guys, David said, forcing a cheerfulness he didn't quite feel. Home sweet home. No one answered. Inside, the house greeted them with a heavy, suffocating silence, the kind that made every step echo a little too loud. All this space, Laura breathed, twirling once in the wide foyer. Her voice bounced off the high ceilings, and when it came back, it sounded oddly twisted, almost mocking. The movers, two weary men, began hauling boxes through the vast halls, their boots leaving clear prints in the thick dust. Every so often, one of them would pause and glance around nervously, as if they expected something to come creeping out of the shadows. David couldn't blame them. Even in the afternoon light, the house felt wrong. Still, he brushed the feeling aside. They had to make this work. There was no going back. They quickly picked their rooms. David and Laura claimed the master bedroom on the second floor, a sprawling space with crown molding and a faded fireplace. Emily chose the bedroom with the big bay windows, even though it looked out onto the dense woods that wrapped around the back of the house like a heavy net. Michael, grumbling, picked a room closer to the stairs, mumbling something about needing better internet and a quick escape if there were zombies. David chuckled along, but deep inside, the sound felt strained. The first strange thing happened during lunch. They sat cross-legged in the living room, eating pizza straight from the box, while dusty beams of sunlight drifted through the grimy windows. David popped open a can of soda and placed it on the old coffee table. Moments later, the can tipped over, spilling soda across the floor. Everyone stared. "Earthquake?" Laura suggested, though her voice wavered. "No way," Michael said in shock. "It moved by itself." David opened his mouth to say something reassuring, but stopped. The can hadn't rolled. It had shifted like something unseen had pushed it. He forced a light laugh. Old house, probably uneven floors, but none of them really believed it. Later, while the others unpacked, Laura wandered into the library. The heavy door groaned as she pushed it open. Inside, the air was chilly and damp, thick with the scent of old paper and something metallic. Books lined the towering shelves of ancient, dusty tomes with cracked spines and strange titles. Most were in Latin, some German. A few languages Laura didn't recognize at all. She reached for a thick, black, leather-bound book. The moment her fingers brushed it, the temperature dropped sharply. She pulled her hand back with a gasp, her heart fluttering against her ribs. The room seemed to shift slightly around her, like something unseen had just passed by. Laura took a step back, goosebumps rising in her arms. Maybe she'd come back later when she wasn't so jumpy. With that, she left the library. That evening, the house settled around them, creaking and groaning like a ship lost at sea. The wind howled through cracks in the old walls, rattling the windows. David sat hunched over a notebook, sketching ideas for starting a fixer business, his best chance at getting back on his feet. In the kitchen, Laura unpacked dishes, the clatter of plates echoing down the hall. Michael had retreated to his room, headphones on. Emily lingered near the staircase, her hand resting on the carved banister. She hadn't noticed the carvings before, faces twisted in pain, mouths frozen in silent screams. A cold shiver slipped down her spine. From somewhere above, a faint giggle floated down. Emily froze. "Michael," she called out. No answer. She tried to tell herself it was just the wind, but deep down, she wasn't so sure. That night, they made the best of it. They laid out sleeping bags in the living room. A fire crackled weakly in the hearth. They projected a movie onto a blank wall. For a little while, it almost felt normal. David held Laura's hand, feeling the slight tremble in her fingers. Emily curled up beside her mother, her eyes darting occasionally toward the dark staircase. Michael snored softly, a game controller still clutched to his chest. For a fleeting moment, they could almost pretend they were just an ordinary family, starting fresh. Almost.
If you made it this far, I love you.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for episode 2.